I'd just like to welcome everybody back for the 23-24. See that? Yeah. 24. Oh, it's not. 2023. 24 school year. Wow. Yeah, sorry. I'm just having a It's good to see everybody here, all our members and new members and people who have had lots of experience and people who have been gaining experience. We hope you had a good break and we hope you had a good rest and you're here today to do some good work. I'd like to mention that we have a new superintendent of special education. This is Connie Scucato, sorry. She has taken over from Jennifer while Jennifer has been seconded to the provincial schools. And you'll also notice that I'm missing my vice chair, Fauzia. Fauzia has stepped down and Terry Jewell is taking over her spot as a representative, but we will need a new vice chair. Okay, so those are my opening remarks. So I'm going to call the meeting to order as of 7:07. And the first order of agenda on the agenda is the acknowledgement of traditional territory. And are we doing the video again?
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Now, we are making a slight change because there was a misunderstanding of who was to be elected today. My term is not up until later on in this calendar year, but because our vice chair has resigned, we need to elect a new vice chair. And I guess it's going to be a temporary. We'll do we'll do the election of both vice chair and chair again in November or December. Somebody said it was December. I'm thinking it's sometime after my birthday. I just know that. Okay, so all right. So I guess I need to call for nominations for the position of vice chair. Would anybody like? Yes, Barb?
I would like to nominate Mary.
Do you have a second over there? Jennifer? Any other nominations? We'll let that sit for a minute. I'm gonna fast forward and I'll leave it on my timeline so say we've got it. I think Mary is acclaimed. Mary has been my vice chair before, and I welcome Mary back as my vice chair. Mary's very good, very supportive. We do have a new member, and I understand, my understanding is that your organization has been approved by the board. So, now that we have vice chair and the chair, I wonder if we could take this time to, after we do conflict of interest, to go around and introduce each other. Sounds good. Can we approve the agenda? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm looking for a declaration of conflict of interest, which is number 4. And seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to the introduction of the people around the table. And I'll start with me, and we'll go around and come back to me. My name is Shelley Foster, and I represent Voice for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Children.
And my name is Mary Wright, and I'm the representative for Down Syndrome Association.
Good evening, I'm Susan Benjamin. I'm trustee for Ward 5 Mississauga Moulton and member of this committee.
My name is Barb Sear. I represent the Association for Bright Children.
My name is Jackie Gill, and I represent Ontario Parents for Visually Impaired Children.
Hi, my name is Nicole Luckett. I represent the Fragile X Research Foundation of Canada.
Darren also Associate Director, School Improvement Equity, and the Associate Director of SEAC.
My name is Kevin Wilson. I'm the CEO of Abilities to Work. We're a finance services organization just down the road, and we support persons with disabilities in helping them find work, self-employment, education, and training. We work with all disability types, cognitive, mental, physical. We also mental health. We work with all education levels from high school up to PhD, and we have different types of programs for different types of people, from getting people into entry-level jobs right up to professional jobs in banks, offices, and up to PhD level in research. So I've been working with persons with disabilities for about 20 years, and I know a lot about accessible education and accessible employment. And I have children in the Peel system. One of whom is a disability, and I live with disabilities myself. So I'm very happy to be here. This is a passion of mine. So thanks for having me.
Jennifer, and I'm Jennifer Knight, and I represent Eastern Sales, Ontario.
Good evening. This is Southport St. Joe Hall and trustee from Brampton's Board.
Sorry, excuse me. I'm Anne Smith, and I represent Brampton, Canada and Community Living.
Laura Fernandez, board reporter.
Hi, Claudia Scutello, Superintendent of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning.
And sorry, but we're going to introduce the back people in the back too. First row and then last row. Gentleman in the gray suit on the left.
Hi, I'm Jeff Bertrand, Coordinating Principal of Special Education.
Hi, I'm George Tomitis, Coordinating Principal of Special Education. I can't say I'm you anymore because I've been here for a year.
I can say I'm new. My name is Andrea Dewar-Salmon, and I'm the Coordinating Principal for PSSB. And I'm new to the role and new to this team. Nice to see everyone.
Good evening. I'm Rola Jacket. I'm the Coordinating Principal in Special Education.
Hello, I'm Jada Shkowski, Acting Senior Manager of Social Emotional Learning.
And I'm Jeff Hall. I'm the Coordinating Vice Principal of Education and Community Partnerships.
I'm Kevin Lucas, and I am a teacher candidate at Brock University.
I'm Renee Lucas from Internal Audit. I was here to scrutineer your election, but you did a fine job without me. Congratulations.
And I'm Catherine Locke, your General Counsel and Governance Officer for the board.
Right, I'm Therese Fitzpatrick, and I'm a principal with Penn District School Board.
Wonderful. That you, and I'm sorry, but it's probably going to take me a few meetings to remember your name. I have ADHD, so.
Kevin.
Okay, you have the same name as one of my supervisors at FedEx. Yeah, I'm even writing it down. Okay, yes, so thank you to all the staff who introduced themselves. You'll notice, Kevin, that sometimes the staff members in the back and the people in the back, though, their faces will change as we get presentations, but you will be just take it one meeting at a time and you can get used to it. Nicole is one of our newer members, and so is Jazzy, and they've come on board really, really nicely and are making wonderful contributions to the conversations. Thank you. And our new trustees, these are brand new trustees from last year, and they're making wonderful contributions too. All right, so we are going to move to number 5, which is the approval of the minutes. That's from the last meeting, the Special Education Advisory meeting of June 13th, 2023. And I'm sorry I couldn't be here. I was moving my mother into long-term care and I was in Ottawa. Oops. Sorry. Would somebody like to move for a minutes? Mary, seconder. Thank you, Jesse. All right. Number 6 is chair's request for written questions from committee members. This is the way I like to receive written questions is through my email. It's voiceshelley@gmail.com. If you don't notice that I've answered it, it's usually a good idea to give me a little nudge because it can get lost in my inbox. But that's usually the way things go is you send me your question via email and then the written question is actually entered into it's actually entered into the minutes, isn't it? Yes. Okay. And I didn't receive any written questions. I don't have any notices of motions or petitions. We don't have any delegations. We don't have any public here to the questions. Did we receive any questions through the email that we have to take care of? Or who's looking after the email?
I can check that if you want. It'll take me a couple of minutes to go, and I haven't looked at it for a couple of months, but I'll take a look.
I'm guessing we probably didn't, but maybe this is something. I don't know how to get into it anymore because the password changed so too many times. And
so I'll see if I can get in.
Passwords I can't remember.
We hadn't done it in the previous meeting, so I didn't know if we were continuing that practice.
Yeah. Usually somebody would have a look, and then if there was something there, it would be brought to my attention. Okay, so we're moving on to 9, which is reports from officials and staff. And we have Bonnie making her first superintendent's report.
For you, Chair, thank you. I'm thrilled to extend a heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you as we embark on a journey together to challenge ableism, to foster learning, to challenge existing practices, and to forge true and authentic collaboration. In the spirit of inclusivity and unity, we believe that the power of the collective is unmatched. Together, we can make meaningful impact on the PDSB students and community, and we're excited to drive positive change through your voices, through your experiences, and through your expertise. We are committed to the principles of continuous learning and growth, and by engaging with one another openly and honestly and thoughtfully, we will not only challenge ableism, but also challenge our own practices and assumptions. The introspection and willingness to evolve are collective efforts that I'm committed to. True and authentic collaboration should be at the heart of our approach. So we value what you bring to the table each and every day. I wanted to share with you that today was our first of 3 special education institutes. We were hosting principals and lead special education teachers in all 259 of our schools. The focus of our learning today, tomorrow, and on October 4th is to understand special education and that it must be rooted in equity and justice for people with disabilities. We need to understand and action our collective responsibilities within the student review process and support high expectations for people with disabilities. We understand that the school review process and the IEP support our accountability for high expectations for our learners and need schools to be more accountable for how they are implemented. We shared structured literacy program in a deep connection with our curriculum and assessment team. We reviewed the ministry's right to read report, and we moved from balanced to structured literacy and talked about a tiered literacy approach. We also explored program planning, resources, and evidence-based learning. We also have an organizational chart for you to review with each of you. I really want for all of you on SEAC to be able to reach, and I will pan that out after, reach members of our team. And this will be posted as well for all schools to be able to access and gain support. Next, I want to talk to you and discuss how our departments partnered with LearnStyle to offer specialized summer camps. The first was the After School Skills Development Program. This was for students with autism and provided virtual summer sessions to 93 students from kindergarten to age 21 that were safe, identity affirming, and family inclusive. Being virtual, we had students logging in from their bedrooms, special places within homes, backyards, provincial parks, and even all the way from California. Running 4 days a week for 3 weeks, sessions were a blend of small and combined groups that utilized thoughtfully chosen print resources aligned to weekly real-time virtual field trips to the Cambridge Butterfly Conservatory, Toronto Zoo, and Ripley's Aquarium. As for all ASSPD, families were provided with an in-depth final student reports that summarize their child youth ELE involvement, observed successes, facilitators used resources and recommendations to support skills at home and in the community. Next, we offered a coding camp. A virtual coding camp was provided to students in grades 6 to 12 in collaboration with LearnStyle. 8 students attended this 5-session half-day program in July, learning to engage in robotic and coding-themed social games designed to encourage joint engagement, conversation, turn-taking, and cooperation while building behavior regulation skills and patience and perseverance. While attending, students provided positive feedback about the sessions, and assessment data showed that all students made gains in the targeted learning goals and expectations. Next was the LearnStyle Blind Low Vision Technology Program. We had assistive technology skills and are critical to students with vision loss, empowering them to achieve their goals for education, employment, leisure, and independence. The Blind Low Vision program provides engaging activities for students to expand and enhance their use of assistive and mainstream technology tools past what is needed to complete day-to-day tasks in the classroom, and also support the use of tech within the components of expanded core curriculum. There were 2 camps in total. There were 5 students in grades 4 to 8 that completed the 10-day session that ran in July. And there was also a software program that was offered, and we focused on CELA, Android accessibility tools, Apple accessibility tools, text-to-speech, and magnification tools. And finally, we ran Camp Possible. It's a fun and inclusive virtual camp designed to cater to the unique needs of students who receive special education support throughout the school year. The dedicated team of over 50 staff members, this free camp offered an array of activities tailored to student interests and to diverse interests, from culinary activities to Zumba, Caribbean dance, tranquil yoga classes, Minecraft exploration, iMovies, Camp Possible had something for everyone. We had an overwhelming response, 2,000 eager participants over the summer, with 250 available camps over 5 weeks. We also had the support of many monitor teachers who were helping secondary students with IEPs, taking course credits in school, summer school. And these monitor teachers provided academic support, coordinated with classroom teachers. We tracked student achievement of their goals, and we contacted parents and community as required. They acted as a resource for staff and students, and 95% of the students who had access to summer monitor teacher support successfully completed all the courses that they were required to over the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a really busy summer. Anybody have any questions? Barb?
You mentioned CELA. What is that? I'm not sure, Jeff, if you know. Sorry, I might have to get back to you with that. It was the itinerant teacher who helped to write this, and I didn't ask that question. Is that something?
It's another acronym.
Yes, very true. That's something can I bring that back to you? But sure. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, even the ones that have been here around for a while, acronyms are nice if we know what they mean here. Yeah. Do you have a question, Jess?
Yeah. My question is, so you mentioned that there's over the series of a couple of days, there's these special education learning and training days in the schools, and you touched upon IEP. Could you share more about how, or the content of the training and how we're holding the schools accountable with the IEP?
Absolutely. So today was an introduction. So thank you for your question through you, Chair. Today was an introduction to the development of the IEP. The big ideas and messaging that we shared today, that IEPs are meant for tools to be able, for students to be able to access their learning within the classroom, and that they were legally binding documents that needed to be individualized to the student portrait every single time. So there should not be any kind of group IEPs or anything like that. We talked about how do we understand where the student needs are, what community and parent support needs to be, and how we're integrating parent voice into the development of the IEP. And at the root of the IEP is really a belief in the high expectations for all of our learners and their ability to succeed within our programs when we remove the barriers to their education. There is continued learning that we are planning. So as a department, I will share that is an area of focus for us this year. And we're planning on offering through D2L, which is our online platform, more learning around how to develop and implement IEPs. We also talked to principals about their collective responsibility to ensure the implementation of the IEP. Writing the IEP is one step. Implementing and action the IEP is the collective step of both the classroom teacher, the in-school support teacher, and the principal. Thanks.
Evan?
Thanks. With the IEP as well, there were 259 all schools represented. That has to ripple down because every teacher is going to have a student there with an IEP. How are we going to make sure that every single one of those teachers, there's thousands of them, get to that knowledge they need for IEP so the children are supported?
Through you, Chair. That's a great question. So our learning is always transferable right for principals to take into staff meetings. So we create slide decks that are tailored and catered towards educators as the target audience. So they do the learning with us. And then principals would each take this slide deck that where we introduce these concepts, we share resources and links, and take that to staff in their staff meetings.
Anybody else? Kevin, would you like to move for receipt of the report then? Wonderful. Thank you. All right, communications for action orders. We second it? Oh, we beat you, okay. Yeah, would you, oh, Nicole's gonna second it, okay, Nicole's gonna second it. Okay, we're gonna move on to The report, PDSB mental health strategy 2023 to 2026. And that's going to be by Janet Jakowski.
Good evening. Through your chair, I'm Janet Jakowski, Acting Senior Manager of Social Emotional Learning, and I'll provide an update to the April 25th report to SEAC regarding the mental health strategy in Year 1 action plan. With the guidance of School Mental Health Ontario and the PDSB core mental health leadership team, a new mental health strategy and action plan has been developed and launched this fall. This strategy was developed with input from the 4 advisory groups, including students, staff, parents and caregivers, and community and faith leaders, as well as the steering committee over the 2022 to 2023 school year. After the strategy priorities were written, the core leadership team started to gather input on what the advisory group saw as action steps that could be put in place to begin work towards the achievement of the mental health strategy priorities. The first priority is based in creating a sense of belonging in each classroom and school environment. Together with our partners in the curriculum, equity, and modern learning departments, we have created resources and learning opportunities to assist school and class staff in creating and nurturing identity-affirming and welcoming environments. Included in these learning experiences is the opportunity to gain knowledge and understanding of trauma, including racial trauma, and its impact on well-being. The second priority addresses mental health literacy and promotion. This priority is supported by PPM 169, Student Mental Health, and the ministry's mandate to include mental health literacy in everyday school experiences. We are working diligently with our partners in curriculum to ensure fulsome and meaningful implementation of this PPM and our strategy priority. In addition, we use summer ministry funding for mental health to have a team curate K-21 resources to support the integration of mental health literacy and promotion in all classes and all schools. Although the ministry has mandated the inclusion of mental health literacy in grades 7 and 8 this year, the PDSB has gone further and encouraged schools to begin to integrate the ideas of mental health literacy into all classes beginning this year and to continue to deepen this learning over the next 3 years. The final priority explicitly raises the impact of systems of oppression on mental health and well-being. For this priority, we continue to partner with our equity, curriculum, and modern learning departments to produce learning opportunities and resources to support learning about how oppressive practices in our system and society impact students and families. We will continue to monitor this developing understanding through the school equity audit tool, report backs from schools, input from community partners, students, and parents and caregivers. Year 1 action plan is currently under development and includes the integration of the strategy priorities into our school improvement and equity planning process and our commitment to meeting the requirements of PPM. We also continuously re-examine our existing policies, procedures, and guidelines to integrate anti-oppressive practices. We also continue to work on fostering community partnerships and removing barriers to care. Challenges persist with community wait lists and availability of identity-affirming healthcare. However, as we are invited to sit on more community advisory committees, we continue to advocate for the Students and Families Appeal. At this time, I am happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm wondering if we could get a copy of that slide deck you just showed.
Through your chair, I have no problem with that. Take it away.
Okay. Well, I guess you have it, so you can send it to us or arrange for someone to send it to us.
Send it. Letting it sent to me.
And also, I was on one of those groups, and I think we had 2 meetings, and the rest of them kept getting canceled. Reschedule, cancel, reschedule, cancel, reschedule, cancel.
Yes, we did have some scheduling conflict issues. The advisory committee meetings will continue into the 2023-24 year.
Okay, so I will possibly be contacted again.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, then, thank you.
Jasmine, not here.
I was just gonna ask, you mentioned that you're collecting feedback through, whatever the children or parents or, schools may experience through the schools, how are the parents and children able to provide their experience or their trauma or, resources that they might need or?
Through you, Chair, we have a number of feedback opportunities. So we have, I think, 3 times a year through our school improvement and equity planning and school equity audit tool report backs from the schools, which those both include each school collecting community and student voice. We also have data that will come to us from the recent climate census and survey that was completed in earlier in 2023. And we will, as I just mentioned, we'll continue to seek input and feedback from our board advisory groups as well as our steering committee.
Is that the survey that, I think there's a link that the parents got? Is that it? Okay.
When I'm looking at the action plan, it's great, but I didn't see any accountability measures to measure the progress of this that they developed.
Through you, Chair, the accountability measures are through the multiple times a year the schools report back through their school improvement and equity plan and their school equity audit tool. We also have a report back on PPM 169, so the PPM from the Ministry of Student Mental Health due back to the ministry on June 30th. So we report back on 11 metrics in there. Sorry, I didn't memorize them, but 11 things in there. And we have worked with our school improvement and equity planning team to integrate that data collection so that schools will do that as they report back as they achieve their school goals through the year.
Is that something we would get to see, or in terms of the distilled data, so that we can see progress? Or I'm curious.
There is we'll be reporting back to our the core leadership and steering committee, to the advisory groups. Part of the 3-year action plan is each year we have a different action plan. So in 3 years we'll have 3 different action plans to achieve the strategy in the 3 years. So throughout this year, we'll be bringing back to the advisory groups any data that we have so far cleaned up without any identifying information. And that will help to inform the year 2 action plan. As far as bringing it back to SEAC, that I don't know at this moment. We'll have to defer to Claudine or Paul for that decision. And if that's something that is requested, then we can take a look at that request for sure.
It's just one of a lot of our clients are still in the school system, and mental health is a huge issue. So it's a disability. So in the sense that sort of reporting could be very useful for the school.
Yes. Barb, would you like to move for procedure? Sure. Thank you. Let's move first. Good. Thank you. Trustee
Benjamin.
All right. We are going to move on to the multidisciplinary support model, and that's going to be presented by Claudine.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. We wanted to bring to SEAC a writing team that has now taken root into all of our schools around the multidisciplinary support model. If you just move to the next slide. The Peelschools School Board, as you know, is committed to interrupting and dismantling practices which limit students' access and equitable access to education. Intentionality is required to address the intersectionality of race, ableism, and social location so that we ensure that we have equitable decision-making. Deficit narratives that exist that are grounded in anti-Black racism, anti-ableism, and all forms of discrimination must be disrupted. So this group is a working group that is meant to address those things that are occurring in our system. So the purpose of this multidisciplinary support model is to create a systemic and planned supports for schools for administrators and superintendents to understand the direct impact of school-initiated requests for supports, tools, and resources. It's imperative to exhaust solutions prior to coming to the central collaborative team. So all of the learning that all of you have done around the student review meetings and process remains in an integral part of this process. This is just for students who and schools who need additional support outside of the existing SRM. Rethinking ways in which our supports and resources can be allocated to schools and students who need them, and how they can be leveraged efficiently and cohesively to have wraparound supports for families and students. And it's an evolving process. So there are three stages to the multidisciplinary support model. And we are going to share a video with you so you can have a look at what that looks like. And I'm open to any questions after that.
The purpose of the multidisciplinary collaborative support model is to create systematic and planned supports for schools, administrators, and superintendents. This new process is in response to supporting increasingly complex student portraits. It provides a structured collaborative process, resources, and tools that will support school teams to navigate these situations at the school, superintendent, and central levels. The core of this process is respectful, critical consciousness, and discourse with students, families, school teams, and superintendents. Learners excel when their identities and narratives are honored, and they can create personalized pathways to success. Learning environments involve far more than the physical and virtual classroom. They support a climate that allows learners to express their brilliance and build trusting relationships. At each school, the student review process, SRP, emphasizes building collaborative relationships with students and families that empower them in making decisions regarding their child's education. Families should always feel included in the SRP, which begins in the classroom with educators building relationships with families. The SRP may focus on the discussion of strategies, interventions, additional information, and/or data collection. If a school team is seeking additional teaching strategies, supports, and/or services, the school administrator or case manager can present the student portrait and SIS documentation, SIS notes, strategies, and outcomes provided through SRM meetings to their field superintendent. School teams will be required to complete and share the case management form with their SOE. This meeting will ensure that processes have been followed and school teams are supported to make decisions and respond to issues or situations. For more complex cases, family of school superintendents bring forward students' names and portraits to the central team through the assistant to the superintendent of special education and social emotional learning to access significant supports needed to ensure safe and inclusive school environments. In the event of high-risk behavior or crisis, the administrator must reach out to the family of school superintendent to request the central team to provide next steps as needed. The multidisciplinary support model is cyclical in nature, with various stakeholders being involved at different times depending on the student portrait. All three collaborative team discussions center around the student's needs, thus the central team and superintendent involvement are meant to be consultative and short-term to enable school teams to maintain safe and supportive learning environments at their school. The school team will continue to monitor and reflect on the tools, strategies, and resources implemented for each individual student. For more information, please review the professional learning pathways here.
So in addition to this video, our team has created a website and comprehensive supports for all schools to be able to access. You can see there's increased levels of accountability, and that community and family voice is integral to every stage of the process and in each step. As a next step, we are continuing to work alongside of community and are planning to create a family guide to the multidisciplinary process so that the expectations and families' ability to provide input throughout the process is very clear to them. And we'll have that translated into different languages and different levels of accessibility so that everybody can access it. Happy to answer any questions.
Mary.
That sounds great. A lot of changes since previous years, positive information in that presentation. One thing that kind of caught my attention was the multidisciplinary team. I guess they will get involved upon the request from the school. Is that what, I think that's what I heard or what I saw on the slide at the request of.
Yeah, through your chair. Yeah, so the school team, when they feel like they've exhausted the resources and the support of our PSSP, Peelschools support staff, so psychologists, social workers, and we still have not met the needs of the students, they would go to their superintendent. Superintendents also in the field have a responsibility to the education and commitment to the students, have a conversation about if there's any gaps missing, and then yes, that superintendent would take it to our central team, which is multidisciplinary, which includes experts from the field, psychology managers, social work managers, members of our equity team, if we think that there's intersectional identities that need to be considered, members of our safe schools team, if there's student safety concerns that are raised. So it really is the multidisciplinary team is determined based on that student portrait and who can we get, how many people can we get at the table to really problem solve around improving the access of the equity of access, experience, and outcome for all students. So yes.
Yeah, because the reason I was asking is because we know that from school to school, special education is different. Depending on who the administrators are at the time, you may have a wonderful experience and maybe not so wonderful. So I don't know if is there a way to maybe superintendents just to maybe even check it to make sure that all those resources are actually being accessed? Because sometimes they do have things available, maybe they're not accessing those to begin with, and the students have these things available to them and they're not being used, if that makes any sense. So of course, that accountability piece will be important to make sure that the school itself is actually doing everything that they can, because you may have students in the school and they never reach out to the multidisciplinary team to get what the student needs. So is there a way to make sure that that gets triggered if necessary?
Yes, that is an excellent question, and through you, Chair. We have also done this learning and training with all of our special education resource teachers. So they are in every SRM and would be able to signal the supports to the classroom teacher, the ISSP teacher, and the principal, because we've done this training extensively. So and all of our PSSP staff have learned about the multidisciplinary model. So if they too feel that at SRM 2, which is the second level of SRM, if they feel like, no, there's additional supports here, there's not a level of accountability, they too can trigger this through a conversation with the field superintendent or with me.
That way,
with built-in layers of accountability.
Right, so we don't want to fall in between the cracks there. And you said that you created a website and I guess a family guide is being created. Is that something that SEAC can have access to? So
we would like that to be in collaboration with SEAC. So our plan is to have somebody come forward and start to co-plan that with you. And SEAC would be heavily involved in understanding and guiding us in what families need to know about the processes and would be brought to you for input. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, in the agenda, it says that this model aligns with the ministry's student achievement plans.
And one of those is to improve graduation rates. So is the Peel District School Board tracking graduation rates? Through you, Chair, yes, we do actively track graduation rates, and we have a number of supports in place, especially in our high schools, to start to do that at earlier times. We are tracking now in grade 9 and 10, students who do not have their full 8 or 16 credits by the end of grade 10 are then brought to, again, the school-based team to discuss credit accumulation and other options. I sit with Trustee Benjamin on other options for students for credit accumulation, so that is data that we track. So other than that, is there any other information you track about students who don't graduate? Like, what do you know about these students who don't graduate? Yes,
Like,
are
they in
a
special education program
So
or?
through you, Chair, I can just ask Associate Director Paul DeSilva to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. A great question, and I think that's the numbers that we're trying to interrogate the most. Who are the 5 or 6 students? We engaged in some conversations last year as we were starting to hear even that they weren't students who didn't graduate, weren't getting their community hours. So that was the piece that was holding them back. So we are investigating and looking at all those pieces. I don't have any data right now, but in terms of the missing students, but certainly we're looking at developing something to track that, investigate that, interrogate that, and kind of peel that, go deeper with those kinds of questions. And I believe through our regular board meetings, oftentimes, I think yearly, we do report back through our regular board meeting, graduation rates. So that's always data that can be provided here in CI as well.
Get graduation rates, but does that also tell you the number of students who didn't graduate?
Yeah. So the numbers through you, Chair, the numbers are difficult at times to kind of understand because is it because the student is taking another year, all of those pieces, but certainly when the report is brought forward, many of those questions are provided in the data, and certainly we can kind of try to bring the data around grad rates when it comes to board to CI for your review.
That'd be great. Thank you.
We're gonna go back to Mary.
I guess my question is gonna be for you, Paul. Since we were talking about graduation rates and tracking students, do we have such a process to track our students in the Block 1 program? Because the students that I represent are typically in the Block 1 program. And that particular pathway, from my understanding, I don't believe we have data on what happens to our students once they leave here. Are they successful? Do they go on to employment, higher education? Like, what happens to our students?
Thanks for the question, Mary, through you, Chair. I don't know offhand if we disaggregated between bot, but likely we can do that. Certainly, one of the pieces that I spoke to last year was around our equity accountability report card data, and that's data that certainly is something that should be shared here so that you can review all of those pieces in detail. But certainly would take it. I can take that back and determine whether or not when we do the report around grad rates that we can disaggregate that information. I will caution potentially maybe we can or maybe we can't because the data is so small that when then the student becomes identifiable, then that becomes an issue for us. And certainly Kathleen would know that. But I'll gather that information, or some of us will gather that information and report it.
I will have further questions at that time. Thank you.
Anybody on this side? Kevin?
Thanks. A couple of questions. On the grad rates, is there any work that's done on the attrition rates on the other side here? Why students drop out? Maybe those that don't even, not necessarily don't graduate, those who drop out, where do they go? What happens to them? Do they just disappear into the, you know, we don't know where waters lie. I know that's a tough one too, but that's useful data, right? And the second question was back to the support model, which is which parts of those columns do the parents fit into in terms of providing the information that may be missing, or they can provide to help the situation.
So they're involved in all aspects. So in the first part, SRM 2, they are involved and can attend the meetings alongside of the school-based team. They are part of the decision-making. They really set the expectations for having a deeper understanding of the student portrait. And we also align our supports with family goals for their children. In the superintendent step, they are also invited to that superintendent meeting where we look at the student portrait more deeply. We critically analyze the supports that have been put in place, ensure that the longevity of supports have been there enough so that the student can then acquire them as habit or behavior or learning. So there's a number of questions that superintendents would ask of school teams, and parents and families are also welcome at that meeting as well. For the central team, prior to coming to central team, a member of our team reaches out to family. They don't attend the meeting physically, but we say again, what is it that you're hoping for as a goal and outcome? And often the conversation is centered around the goal and outcome that the family has brought to the table. We have to be solutions focused and plan backwards. We're not creating as a central team an outcome that we think of. We have to center that outcome of our decisions and actions around kind of the voices of student, if they are capable, and family.
Anything else? Okay. Mary, would you like to move first? I would. And Barb?
Second that.
Thanks. Thank you. We're going to, does anybody have an official report from councils and associations? Did you get my folder? The voice conference? I'm sure I sent it. Voice for deaf and hard of hearing children is having a conference this coming October. Yes, I'll just have to forward the information to the individual members. I had hoped it would be included with the agenda, but yeah, so there is a conference. It's the first in-person conference since COVID. And Voice is pretty tough to be holding this in-person conference for change, and hopefully it's a wonderful learning opportunity. It's great for the teachers of the deaf. For the plug there, they can get continuing education credits. Any other organizations have upcoming events? No. Questions asked of and by committee members. Jazzy.
I was just gonna, on that note, shall we ask, is there an opportunity to have like, any events that are happening like this one on the social media page? So that the parents can, because that's for parents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a way, like, or maybe, I'm not sure if it's on the Kid Board of Education website, but like some sort of, like, how would parents know about it other than us, like, like how would they come to know about it?
Well, if parents were members of Voice for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Children, they would have received the communication already. But parents who are not members, yeah, they wouldn't have, unless they've been previous members, wouldn't have received it. So, yeah. Yes,
Like, can we forward if there's like events, like if OPIC is holding something, or I don't know, like if there's other events, like how do we reach out to the parents that they have that support? Like if they're not registered in that committee and, they don't have a way with us, then but they're on social media or on the website. Is there an opportunity for parents for us to, I don't know, share that type of stuff through social media?
Through you, Chair, I can talk to our manager of communications and see how our partnerships work and what the approval process is for our connection to and affiliation with all of the organizations here. So I can bring that back to you next time. So thank you for the question. I will connect with the manager of our communications department.
Thank you. Yeah, because our parents, what they don't know, right? And it's just like I talk to some of these parents in the school ground and I'm like, oh, we don't know this, we don't know that, but I wonder how we can kind of spread the word and the awareness.
There is a school council Facebook page.
There is? Each school council has a Facebook page?
No.
Or
There is
Something you can connect.
school council page.
Connect it, yeah, okay, discuss it.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions? Anne?
So at the beginning of the school year, there were a number of students who weren't able to get to school because of lack of travel assistance. And so I just would like to have an update on that because I hear there are still children who are out of school. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, yes, there were some challenges with travel assistance this year. Many principals were strongly searching for and advocating for travel assistance, but there were no EA applicants for those positions. It is an additional responsibility outside of their job description, so it is something that you have to apply to. Schools also were then asked to go to parent community, their lunchroom supervisors, or anybody else who'd be willing to take on that role. Some schools with no success. So we have been partnering with transportation to try to ensure that we could get students to and from school in a safe way. To my understanding, there are only a few outstanding cases where students have not, we have not been able to get a travel assistant. So for the most part, that has been rectified.
If there are still, in the next couple of months or a couple of weeks, if there are still students who are not able to get to school, what's the next step? We risk all of it.
So through you, that is a great question. We have been working with both our central team around funding that we can provide for that. And also working actively within the greater community through the principal to see if we can expand our kind of scope of who we're asking and how we're asking. So we've asked people to put it in their newsletters, to communicate with community, to reach out to community partners, to try to really get someone to support that. So if there is a specific situation, we would like to know more about it, but we are aware of only, I think, one or two remaining. And I'm just going to pass it to the Associate Director through you, Sharon.
Thank you, Chair Ann. Yeah, thanks for the question. Early on at the beginning of the year, there was a change in practice around how Stop Bar was routing their buses. And through a great deal of advocacy on the group behind me, along with principals, we were able to reverse that mandate around the rerouting of bus stops, if you will. And so, which really helped to change the trajectory of those TAs. So travel assistants were now being picked up as they normally would have. And so with that, however, there would have been a drastic delay around rerouting to be prepared for September 5th or 4th start date. So there was a staggered approach to do that. And one of the principals is here with us at Parkholme. The rest of the back in the back, where those schools were highly targeted we reroute those bus stops immediately so that those students would be serviced. And so our hope is that because of that mandated change, that we would have enough people to support and back to our regular business. But there's always going to be, we always have situations where we're looking for TAs, and we'll continue to advocate and find ways to try and rectify those situations as we always would every year.
Anybody else?
I will ask again, next month.
I'd like to make a comment on the fact that, on the presentation, on how Claudine and she used these words, systematic, planned, collaborative, and families included, and it, like, I think that attitude has to be throughout the board. That any changes are systematically enacted and that they are well planned, well thought out, and not major reactions. We had something that happened at the beginning of the year that affected something that I'm very passionate about, which is literacy. And libraries were decimated because of well-meaning thought that was misinterpreted by some on the ground. So yeah, so systematic, planned, deliberately thought out, well thought out, with lots of direction and lots of information given to the people that are on the ground performing these activities, because without that direction, without that, you get a schmozzle, you end up having things misinterpreted, you have stuff happening. At one point, I mentioned to somebody I didn't know we lived in Florida. Makes sense. That's all questions. We have our motion and action law, which is at 13:21. We have one remaining item from November 9th of 2022, which was put and submitted by Jennifer Knight, and it was oh yeah, answering Jennifer? No. So there's still some follow-up that needs to be done. Yes.
Yeah, it's a question that's really been outstanding a lot longer than that. This policy procedures that was put out well over a year ago now has some really great advice for school boards, for teachers, and everything else. Just really like to know if Peel is going to look at it and review it and bring it back to us.
Through you, Chair, just for clarification, Jennifer, are you talking about the Peel Peel District School Board multi-year accessibility plan?
No, but that would be good too. I'm talking about the K-12 education standards development committee final report that was done, and I think it was released in March of 2022.
So we will have to bring that back to the next meeting. I interpreted because I did look at the log and interpreted it as the accessibility plan, which we can update you on next time as well. Because that team has been meeting and are actively working on updating and bringing back to SEAC the accessibility plan for the board through work that I believe that you have done alongside of other members of our school-based staff. Some great learning and that we're taking up on a system level. So we will bring that question back.
Conference information. Sorry, Mary has some conference information.
Sorry, I was trying to find it when Shelley was speaking. So the Down Syndrome Association of Ontario, they're going to be having their downright amazing 2023 conference. It's going to be at Great Wolf Lodge, Friday, October 13th to the 14th. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, that works.
All right. With that, Jennifer, would you like to adjourn officially? Wonderful. And Anne, would you like to second moving to adjourn?
I can't hear what you're saying, sorry.
Would you like to second moving to adjourn? Sorry.
Yes, I will do that.
Sorry.
The sound in here, I don't know if anybody else has the same problem. I find that the sound in here is not as good as it used to be.
We can take that.
All right. And our meeting is adjourned.